In 1988, a black-footed ferret named Willa died on the Wyoming prairie without ever producing a single offspring. Her bloodline ended with her. But before her body was discarded, a veterinarian shipped a small sample of her cells across the country to a freezer in San Diego. There they sat, suspended at 320 degrees below zero, untouched, for more than 3 decades. No one who placed them in that tank knew whether they would ever matter. What nobody knew at the time was that those frozen cells carried something the entire species had already lost. And 32 years later, scientists would thaw them to do something no one had ever done with an endangered American animal. This story does not begin in that freezer. It begins 7 years earlier on a cattle ranch in northern Wyoming with a dog. In 1981, a ranch dog named Shep trotted up to the home of John and Lucille Hogg near the small town of Meeteetse, carrying a dead animal his owners did not recognize. It was lean, masked, the size of a house cat. They brought it to a local taxidermist who realized what it was almost immediately. It was a black-footed ferret, and that mattered for one reason. As far as the scientific world was concerned, the black-footed ferret no longer existed. 2 years earlier, in 1979, the species had been declared extinct. North America's only native ferret had vanished, and almost no one expected to ever see one alive again. So when researchers followed that single dead animal back to the prairie outside Meeteetse, what they found stopped them cold. A living colony, a last hidden population of a species the world had already buried. To understand how close this animal came to disappearing, you have to understand what it once was. In the late 1800s, somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million black-footed ferrets ranged across the grasslands of central North America. They were specialists. Up to 90% of their diet was a single animal, the prairie dog, and they lived their entire lives inside prairie dog colonies, hunting the burrows in the dark. When ranchers and government programs spent the 20th century poisoning prairie dogs by the hundreds of millions, the ferret's world collapsed beneath it. By the time the species was listed as endangered in 1967, it was already nearly gone. The Meeteetse colony was the last one on Earth, and it did not last long. The colony grew to about 130 animals before 2 diseases tore through it. Sylvatic plague, the same bacterium behind the human Black Death, swept the prairie dogs the ferrets depended on. Then, canine distemper hit the ferrets directly. Within a few short years, the only known population of black-footed ferrets was being wiped out in front of the very scientists trying to study it. So in the mid-1980s, biologists made a decision that was either the bravest or the most reckless call in the history of American conservation. They would capture every black-footed ferret they could find and pull the entire species into captivity. If they failed, the animal would go extinct in a cage. If they did nothing, it would go extinct in the wild. There was no safe option left. Between 1985 and 1987, they caught 18 animals. That was the whole species. 18 ferrets standing between this animal and oblivion. 7 males, 11 females. And here is the detail that everyone missed at the time, the one that would haunt the recovery for the next 40 years. Of those 18, only 7 ever successfully bred. Every black-footed ferret alive today, all of them, the ones in the wild, the ones in breeding centers, every single one, descends from just 7 individuals. Think about what that does to a gene pool. When a species rebuilds itself from 7 founders, everything that comes after is, in genetic terms, family. Today, any 2 black-footed ferrets are about as related as siblings or first cousins. The breeding program has since produced something like 10,000 animals, and many have been released back onto the prairie. About 600 now live in the wild, with another 300 in human care. By the raw numbers, it is one of the great comebacks in conservation. But underneath those numbers sits a problem you cannot breed your way out of. You cannot create genetic diversity that no longer exists. Inbred populations grow fragile. They lose fertility. They lose the ability to fight off exactly the kind of disease that nearly killed them the first time. The 7 founders were all the species had, or so everyone believed, because there had been an 8th. Her name was Willa, the female captured on the 2nd of November, 1985. Willa was brought into the program with the others, but she never bred. She produced no kits, left no descendants, and died in 1988. By every measure that mattered to the breeding program, Willa was a dead end. Her genes were simply gone, except for one man who had quietly asked for her cells. To find him, you have to go to a place that sounds like science fiction and has existed since 1972. At the San Diego Zoo, a pathologist named Kurt Benirschke had begun freezing living cells from animals across the world, building a collection he called the Frozen Zoo. At the time, there was no technology that could do anything with those samples. Cloning a mammal was still science fiction. Benirschke froze them anyway, on a kind of faith, telling colleagues that you must collect things for reasons you do not yet understand. He was banking biological material for a future he could not see, betting that someone, someday, would invent the tools to use it. In the late 1980s, a conservation geneticist at the zoo named Oliver Ryder heard about the black-footed ferret's plight from a Wyoming wildlife veterinarian. Ryder asked for samples, and when Willa died, her cells made the journey to San Diego and disappeared into a tank of liquid nitrogen, alongside thousands of other frozen vials, to wait. They waited 25 years. In 2014, the conservation nonprofit Revive and Restore funded a genomic study of those banked ferret cells, and the results reframed everything. Willa's genome held nearly 3 times the genetic diversity of the entire living black-footed ferret population. Her DNA carried roughly 10 times more unique gene variants than any captive-bred ferret alive. That is not a typo. One animal, dead since 1988, contained more of the species' lost genetic heritage than every living member of it combined. And because Willa had never bred, none of that was in the population. She was not one of the 7 founders, which meant that if scientists could somehow turn her frozen cells back into a living, breathing ferret, that animal would not be a copy of something already in the gene pool. It would be a brand new founder, an 8th lineage, restored from the dead, carrying diversity the species had not held in nearly half a century. There was only one way to do it. They would have to clone her. The process reads like something assembled from spare parts. Scientists could not risk the eggs of an endangered black-footed ferret, so they used eggs from a related species, the common domestic ferret. They matured those eggs, then used fine glass pipettes to suck out the nucleus and the original genetic material, leaving an empty shell. Into each one, they inserted the contents of Willa's thawed cells. Then came a jolt of electricity, an artificial spark standing in for the moment of conception, coaxing the cell to begin dividing as an embryo. Those embryos were implanted into a domestic ferret surrogate, an ordinary animal carrying the resurrected genome of a wild one. On the 10th of December 2020, the surrogate gave birth. Among the litter was a single black-footed ferret kit, genetically identical to an animal that had died 32 years earlier. They named her Elizabeth Ann. She was the first endangered species native to the United States ever to be cloned. When Oliver Ryder, the man who had banked Willa's cells decades before, heard the news, his reaction was almost disbelief. The cells of an animal frozen in 1988 had become an animal again. If you are finding this story worth your time, consider subscribing. The American Wild documents the science and the stakes behind North America's most endangered animals, and there is a great deal more of this one still to come. By the spring of 2022, the question had shifted from whether Elizabeth Ann could exist to whether she could do the one thing the entire project depended on. She had to breed. Her value was never in being a curiosity behind glass at a conservation center near Fort Collins, Colorado. Her value was in her eggs, in the chance to pour Willa's long-lost genes into the next generation of ferrets. Everything hinged on it. And this is where the impossible thing was supposed to happen. It didn't. Elizabeth Ann reached maturity, and scientists prepared to breed her. But veterinary exams revealed a reproductive condition called hydrometra, a fluid buildup that left her unable to carry young. In 2022, she underwent surgery that removed any possibility of reproduction. The first cloned endangered animal in American history, the resurrection that had made headlines around the world, would never pass on a single gene. It would have been easy, at that moment, to call the whole thing a beautiful failure. A scientific trophy that proved cloning was possible but changed nothing about the species' future. Willa's diversity was alive again, technically, but locked inside one sterile animal who could never share it. The same project that had achieved the impossible was now stuck one step short of the only thing that mattered. But Elizabeth Ann was never the end of the plan. She was the proof of concept. Because the scientists still had Willa's frozen cells, and they used them again. In May of 2023, 2 more black-footed ferrets were cloned from that same cell line, genetic twins of Elizabeth Ann, born years apart from a single dead animal. They were named Noreen and Antonia. 2 more chances to do what Elizabeth Ann could not. 2 more vials of 1988 made flesh. This time, the scientists held their breath through every health check, every exam, watching for the same reproductive failure that had stopped them once. And one of the clones cleared every hurdle. Antonia was healthy. Antonia was fertile. In the spring of 2024, biologists paired Antonia with a 3-year-old male black-footed ferret named Urchin, an ordinary descendant of the original 7 founders, an animal carrying genes the species had not seen since the Reagan administration, bred to an animal representing everything it had left. If it worked, the 2 halves of the gene pool, the new and the old, would finally meet. On the 18th of June, 2024, Antonia gave birth at the Smithsonian's Conservation Campus in Front Royal, Virginia, to 2 kits, a female named Cybert and a male named Red Cloud. And no, this is not an exaggeration of what that meant. They were the first black-footed ferret kits ever born to a cloned parent. For the first time in the history of conservation, a cloned endangered animal had reproduced, and in doing so, had threaded 36-year-old genetic material directly into a living, breathing population. The lost 8th lineage was no longer locked in a tank or trapped in a sterile animal. It was running on 4 legs, in a new generation, ready to be passed on again. Willa, the ferret who never bred, who left no descendants, who died a genetic dead end in 1988, had finally become a mother. It just took 36 years and a technology that did not exist when she was alive. The breakthrough did not stop with those 2 kits. In the summer of 2025, 4 more litters arrived, 6 females and 6 males, born not only to Antonia, but to her own offspring, the ones from the year before. Cybert and Red Cloud were now parents themselves. The line was no longer a single fragile thread. It was branching, generation by generation, exactly the way a healthy population is supposed to. The numbers tell the rest of the story. 5 years after Elizabeth Ann's birth, 15 black-footed ferrets in the breeding population carried Willa's genetic material. For the first time, scientists could say plainly that cloning had put meaningful new diversity back into a living endangered species. Not in theory, not on paper, in animals, breeding, on the prairie. But this story does not get to end on a clean triumph because the science does not allow it. In 2025, both Elizabeth Ann and Noreen died. Elizabeth Ann had lived nearly 5 years, longer than most black-footed ferrets manage even in captivity. And through all of it, she showed none of the premature aging that famously plagued early clones like Dolly the sheep. She never reproduced. But without her, scientists would never have known the technique could work, never have refined it, never have reached Antonia. She was the door the others walked through. And there are voices in conservation who urge caution about all of this, for reasons worth taking seriously. Cloning is expensive. It is technically brutal, with low success rates and long odds. And critics point out correctly that it does nothing to fix the actual reason black-footed ferrets nearly vanished. The prairie dog colonies are still being poisoned. Sylvatic plague is still out there. Habitat is still shrinking. You can resurrect all the genetic diversity in the world, but if there is no healthy prairie left to release these animals onto, you have only built a more sophisticated kind of museum. As one senior biologist put it, cloning is not a panacea. It is a tool, and only one tool, in a fight that still has to be won on the ground. That is the honest version. Elizabeth Ann did not save her species. Antonia did not save her species. What they did was buy it something it had completely run out of. Options, which brings us back to a freezer in San Diego and a man in 1972 who could not have told you why he was bothering. Kurt Benirschke froze cells from animals nobody could yet clone for a future nobody could yet imagine, on the simple conviction that you must collect things for reasons you do not yet understand. For half a century, that sounded like a poetic excuse for hoarding biological samples. Today, there is a generation of black-footed ferrets running through prairie dog burrows whose existence is the answer to a question he asked before the technology to solve it was even invented. He collected Willa for a reason he did not understand. We understand it now.